Well, today we're talking about the call, and a lot of folks like these segments where we talk about, well, we talked to Jason Sheff, for instance, about replacing Peter Cetera in Chicago. Not in this one, but we have, and those videos always do well. When there's a new lead singer, a new guitarist, how you feeling? How'd you get the call? What was that first practice like with this new band? Today we talked to Lawrence Gowan about joining Styx and how that all happened. He's done really well as the lead singer of Styx. There's a few singers in that band. James Young, Tommy Shaw, but Lawrence Gowan and Styx on Rock History Music. Styx, the Chicago band, formed in 1972. And this group is renowned for its unique blend of hard rock, pop, and progressive rock. The band's classic lineup featured Dennis DeYoung on vocals and keyboards, James J.Y. Young on guitar and vocals, and the Panazzo brothers, Chuck on bass and John on drums, and the great Tommy Shaw on guitar and vocals. The group rose to fame in the mid-70s and early 80s. They had 4 triple platinum albums in a row. The Grand Illusion in 1977, featuring the hits like Come Sail Away and Fooling Yourself. Pieces of 8 in 78, known for their tracks Renegade, Blue Collar Man. Followed by Cornerstone in 1979. The album included the ballad Babe, which was their first and only #1 hit. Paradise Theater followed 1981, a concept album with hits like The Best of Times and Too Much Time on My Hands. Here's a group that was known for their theatrical live shows, intricate harmonies, ambitious musical compositions. Internal tensions, which tends to happen in rock bands, led to the departure of Dennis DeYoung. And in 1999, he was replaced by Lawrence Gowan on lead vocals and keyboards. Gowan has a dynamic stage presence, powerful vocals, and helped bring Styx back to a high point. I've talked to Jason Sheff a few times, and I've talked to Ronnie Platt of Kansas just a few weeks ago. And they said something similar to what you said about joining Styx, which is the mandate is we enjoy touring. We like to tour. That's what we do. The fans want us. Why wouldn't we do it? Let's start with A, who phoned you first?
Yeah.
And B, what was the criteria?
So I did a show with Styx when they opened the new Montreal Forum in 1997. Okay. And that's when they first saw me play live in front of, I guess it was 17,000 people. And I was performing solo that year because I had a solo record out in Quebec, just solo piano. And they heard the audience singing all the songs, etc. And I got into their heads then, okay? The following year, our drummer, Todd Zuckerman, saw me again in England when I was part of the opening of Princess Diana's memorial. I did an original piece called Healing Waters with the BBC National Orchestra, and it was Duran Duran were on the bill, and Sir Cliff Richard, etc. And so he saw me again in front of massive, I think 19,000 people that time at her home in Althorpe. A few months later, they needed a piano player, singer, and Tommy Shaw and JY said, "What about that guy from Montreal?" I had a couple of people mention him, and Todd goes, "I just saw him again in England. He was playing this thing from Princess Diana's thing." He goes, I think he'd be great if he would do it." And so they called me. It was early 1999, and they said, and my assumption was entirely, John, that when I got the call, JY called first. And I had entirely assumed that it was to do with opening more shows for them. Mm-hmm. And what excited me about that was I thought, oh, this is a great way to get my records exposed to a U.S. audience if I can go and play in front of Styx. But very quickly in the conversation, when I said, "Yeah, I'd love to come out with you guys again," he goes, "Yeah, but would you join the band?" And I said, I probably would." And he said, "Well, let's get together this weekend, see if our voices meld." And so then I got a call about an hour later from Tommy Shaw, and he said, "Now I think this could really work out." I went to his place in Los Angeles, where I am today, and we oh yes, this was maybe the greatest moment. I was about to play, I think, Come Sail Away, probably, or maybe Grand Illusion, and Tommy stops me. He actually puts his hand on the piano and goes, "No, don't play a Styx song, just play A Criminal Mind." So I thought, oh, okay. So I played A Criminal Mind, and he goes, "Yeah, we'll make that a Styx song now." And so we've played it many, many times. And then we went on to do basically we did Grand Illusion, we did Lady, we did Come Sail Away. I think then we did Crystal Ball and Fooling Yourself. And basically to hear our voice, the blend, because that signature three-part harmony that's in so many Styx songs, if they felt that if we can nail that, then apart from that, you can do the songs exactly as you feel emotionally connected to them. I do them heartfelt, don't try to do any kind of an impression or anything like that. And that's basically been the mandate since I'm into my 26th year now.
Hey, nice to finally talk to you, man. You know what? I got to start by telling you, I have a radio friend, Steve Burgess. He's a pretty writer. He writes pretty the first time. He's genius. He did
Right.
like 500 interviews. He gave me them all on Reel to Reel a little while ago, and I found an interview with you, sir, talking about recording at Ringo's studio, and and you know what Steve got out of that interview? He got out of there. He says, Larry Gowan's one of the most interesting guys I've ever talked to. So that's how I start my interview, sir.
That's I just don't know what to say to that.
You can't say anything.
Okay, well,
As they say, reputation is someone else's business. So there you go.
okay, that's a good saying.
Tell me about your. Let's start with your brother. That was exciting news when I saw that. Tell us about your brother.
Sure. So, well, you mentioned recording that album back in 1984. In '85, Terry, my youngest brother, joined my solo band. It was my first solo outing, mainly because although he was only 19 years old at the time, I'll come forward to Styx very quickly here. But he was only 19, but he learned all the parts that Tony Levin had played on the album, both on the Chapman stick, and also on bass. And I suddenly that record was so successful so quickly that I suddenly got offered these really good gigs that I couldn't turn down. And although I wanted to call Jerry Marotta and Tony Levin to see if they would join me on some of these dates, they couldn't because they were recording the next Peter Gabriel record. So I was kind of left in Toronto to had plenty of great players there, but my brother asked, "Hey, can I play you what I know of the album so far?" And when he played it, I was like, "Oh, jeez, he's got it down." And so he joined my band, and we went out for the. I mean, within 6 weeks, we opened for the Kinks at Maple Leaf Gardens, which is you know, the primo venue that you could play in Toronto. And he stayed with me up until 1993, and then he started doing his own solo work, his own musical works, and then a kind of a storied career that he could probably fill you in on at some point. Went up until 2010 when I decided to start doing Gowan shows again in Canada. There was a venue in Niagara Falls called Fallsview where Styx had played multiple times, and then the fellow that was running the place asked if we could start doing Gowan shows there. So Terry came back into the band, and Todd Zuckerman from Styx joined us, and we did over the next 10 years, we did about 100 shows. So Terry and Todd had become a real rhythm section. So we come to the present day, and when suddenly we needed someone to fill the bass slot that and join Chuck whenever Chuck can make it to the shows, Terry was an obvious choice, and it wasn't even I wasn't even the first to suggest it. But as we went down the list of guys, I said, "Well, I know someone that could do it like literally overnight, but I don't know if we want to have brothers in the band again after the."
Yeah.
And yet Chuck was like, "No, it was great having myself and John. Let's have the Gowan brothers."
How were you guys when you were growing up? Is he older or younger? He's younger, right?
I thank you so much for asking that, John. Um, I, I'm always really happy when that question comes up, maybe once every 100 times. No, I'm the eldest in the of our siblings, and he's 8 years younger than me. But as I say, whatever prescription you have for your eyes, don't change it.
So when you guys were growing up together, since you have that difference of age, were you guys trading musical albums, or that probably didn't happen, right?
Oh, what happened? How it really happened was this: I was at home writing songs in our parents' house. He was going to school in high school, at that time. And when he'd come home after school, I'd usually have a song every 2 or 3 days, play it for him, and he'd make very astute comments. I just noticed he's got a very, he had a great ear, you know, perfect pitch and all that kind of thing, and really understood a lot about arrangement, almost instinctively, you know, because he'd be constantly listening to Genesis and Yes and Elton John records, and he just had a really innate observation that he could offer to the songs I was working on. So I you know I noticed that, and he was a very good ear to bend initially, but we didn't write together. It's just basically he was there, and I'd go, hey, what do you think of this one? Oh, that's crap. Or what do you think of this one? That's a lot better. What if you put that chorus towards the end and repeated it twice? That kind of thing, you know?
I read a thing a few years ago where you said you're surprised that you're still being called the new guy.
Yeah,
Back then.
yeah. That's why I'm having my brother in the band now is fantastic, because I actually get to introduce him as the new guy.
Remember, you can help the channel by donating. There's a PayPal link at the very top of the description. Also, join our Patreon. You will get early access to all our videos. And we have a swag store. You can pick up a lot of merchandise, a lot of clothing with our logos on. Links again in the description. Subscribe to our channel, share our videos, like them, and comment on them. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music.